I've always loved thrifting. There's a Goodwill about 20 minutes from my apartment in Chicago that I visit every weekend. Last Saturday, I found this amazing vintage leather backpack. It was in perfect condition, and for $10, it was a steal. I bought it, threw my stuff in it, and went about my day. I met some friends for coffee, went to the gym, and finally headed home around 8 p.m. I live in a secure apartment building. Key fob entry, cameras in the lobby, the works. I felt safe. I was unpacking the bag on my kitchen counter when I got the notification. AirTag detected. I frowned. I don't own an AirTag. I clicked the notification to see the history. It showed the tag had been with me since 10 a.m., the exact time I bought the backpack. My heart started racing. I dumped the contents of the bag onto the counter. Nothing. I checked every pocket. Nothing. Then I felt a small, hard lump in the lining of the bottom seam. I grabbed a pair of scissors and cut the fabric open. A small, white, circular disc fell out. It had been sewn inside the lining of the bag. This wasn't an accident. You don't accidentally sew a tracker into a bag before donating it to Goodwill. I grabbed a hammer from my toolbox, took the AirTag to the balcony, and smashed it until it was just plastic shards and a battery. I felt a wave of relief. It was gone. I was safe. But I was wrong. 2 hours later, around 10:30 p.m., my buzzer rang. I checked the video feed. It was a man I didn't recognize. He was wearing a delivery uniform, but he wasn't holding a package. "Delivery for apartment 4B, he said. That's my apartment, but I hadn't ordered anything. "I didn't order anything," I said through the intercom. "It requires a signature, ma'am. It's urgent," he pressed. His voice was agitated. I zoomed in on the camera feed. His hands were empty, but tucked into his belt, barely visible under the uniform vest, was a crowbar. My blood ran cold. He wasn't a delivery driver. He had tracked the bag here. He knew exactly which building I was in, and he probably used the buzzer directory to match my name to the apartment number. "Leave it in the lobby," I said, trying to sound calm. "I can't do that," he snapped, his facade dropping. "Buzz me in, now." I hung up and called the police. While I was on the line, I watched the monitor. The man didn't leave. Instead, he started pressing buttons for other apartments. 4C, 4D, 5A. Finally, someone buzzed him in. I heard the heavy front door click open. Then I heard the elevator ding. I pushed my dresser in front of my bedroom door and hid in the closet with a baseball bat. I heard heavy footsteps stop outside my apartment door. Then the doorknob jiggled. "I know you're in there," a voice growled from the hallway. "You have something of mine." He started kicking the door. Once, twice. The wood splintered. The sirens wailing outside were the only thing that stopped him. I heard him curse and run down the fire escape. By the time the police got upstairs, my door frame was nearly destroyed. They never found the guy. The police think the bag was used as a mule to transport something illegal, or maybe it was just a lure to find a victim. Either way, I don't go thrifting anymore, and I double-check every seam of everything I own. This happened 2 weeks ago. I was driving back to college from my parents' house, a 4-hour drive through rural Pennsylvania. Around midnight, I had to stop for gas. I chose a station that looked relatively well lit, a Sheetz right off the highway. There were a few other cars, so I didn't feel too exposed. I got out, started the pump, and went inside to grab an energy drink. I was inside for maybe 3 minutes. When I came back out, everything looked normal. I finished pumping gas and got back on the highway. About 20 miles down the road, the music on my phone cut out, interrupted by a system alert. AirTag found moving with you. I froze. I was doing 70 miles per hour on a pitch-black stretch of highway. I checked the Find My map. The tracking started at the Sheetz gas station. My mind raced. Did someone slip it in my pocket? No, I was wearing tight jeans. My purse? I checked the passenger seat. It was zipped shut. Then I remembered. When I was inside paying, I left my car unlocked. It was a stupid mistake, but I was only gone for a few minutes. I kept driving, terrified to pull over in the dark. I needed a public place. I saw a sign for a 24-hour rest stop 5 miles ahead. I decided to pull in there, surrounded by truckers and vending machines. As I took the exit ramp, I checked my rearview mirror. A pair of headlights that had been behind me for the last 10 miles also took the exit. My heart hammered against my ribs. I pulled into the rest stop and parked directly under a floodlight, right next to a family in an RV. The car behind me, a dark SUV with tinted windows, rolled past slowly. It didn't park. It just circled the lot once and then idled near the exit ramp facing me. I searched my car frantically. Under the seats, in the glove box, the trunk. Finally, I found it. Tucked deep into the pocket behind the passenger seat was the small white disc. I looked at the SUV near the exit. It was still there, waiting. I realized I had two choices: call the cops and wait an hour for them to arrive in this remote area, or do something stupid. I chose the latter because I was angry. I saw a semi-truck pulling out, heading back onto the highway northbound, the opposite direction I was going. I rolled down my window as the truck passed. With a perfect throw, I tossed the AirTag into the open bed of the truck's trailer. I watched on my phone screen. The AirTag began to move north, picking up speed. I looked at the idling SUV. For a moment, it didn't move. Then, as the signal on their end must have updated, the SUV suddenly gunned it. It peeled out of the rest stop, crossing the median illegally to chase the semi-truck northbound. I waited 10 minutes until I stopped shaking, then I drove the rest of the way to school without stopping. I don't know who was in that SUV, but somewhere in Pennsylvania, there's a trucker wondering why a dark car followed him for 300 miles. I used to think the AirTag found moving with you notification was just a glitch or something that happened to other people on TikTok. I never imagined I would be staring at that alert on my own iPhone at 2 a.m., parked in my own driveway in suburban Dallas. It started, innocently enough. I had made a late-night run to Walmart to grab some supplies for a weekend trip. The store was mostly empty, just the usual night crew restocking shelves and a few other shoppers wandering the aisles. I didn't interact with anyone. I checked out at the self-service register, walked to my car, and drove home. It's a 15-minute drive, mostly down dark back roads that cut through a wooded area before reaching my subdivision. About halfway home, my phone buzzed. I ignored it, assuming it was a text. But then it buzzed again. And again. When I finally pulled into my driveway and put the car in park, I picked up my phone. The screen was bright white with a map notification. Unknown accessory detected. This item has been moving with you for a while. My stomach dropped. I clicked on the map. A red dotted line traced my exact path from the Walmart parking lot, down the back roads, right to where I was sitting. I locked the car doors immediately. I looked out the windows, but the street was empty. The silence of the suburbs, usually comforting, felt suffocating. I tapped the button that said play sound. I expected to hear a chirp coming from my purse or the back seat. I held my breath listening. Beep, beep, beep. The sound wasn't coming from inside the car. It was coming from outside, specifically from the front bumper area. Panic set in. Someone had taped this thing to my car while I was inside the store. I debated making a run for my front door, but then I saw headlights sweep across the end of the street. A beat-up sedan turned onto my road. It was moving slowly. Too slowly. I killed my car lights and ducked down in the driver's seat, clutching my phone. The sedan rolled past my house, then stopped 3 houses down. It just sat there, idling. I dialed 911, my voice shaking as I gave the operator my address. "There's a car waiting for me," I whispered. "They tracked me home." While I was on the phone, the driver's door of the sedan opened. A figure stepped out, a tall man wearing a hoodie. He didn't walk toward the house he parked in front of. He started walking down the middle of the street, straight toward my driveway. He was holding a phone, looking down at the screen, then looking up at my car. He was tracking the signal. "He's coming," I told the operator, tears stinging my eyes. "Please, hurry." The man reached the end of my driveway. He stopped. He looked right at my car windshield. Even in the dark, I could feel him smiling. He took a step onto my property. Suddenly, blue and red lights flooded the street. A patrol car that had been nearby turned the corner. The man froze, then immediately bolted toward the woods between the houses. The police couldn't catch him that night. When they inspected my car, they found an AirTag duct-taped inside the wheel well of my front tire. The scariest part wasn't the device itself, but what the police told me later. The AirTag had been registered to a burner email just 30 minutes before I arrived at Walmart. He was waiting in the parking lot for a single female target, and I was the one he chose. I sold that car a week later. I couldn't stand looking at it anymore.